evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and to all the viewers all around the world. Welcome to Plain Talk. Tonight, the name of the show is Activists Assemble. We were expecting to have three others besides myself, Joel D'Souza, Gary Aboud, and Nazma Mullah. Nazma is having technical difficulties with her connection. Satish Ramsaran of Pep Media is working feverishly to bring her on. In the meantime, let me introduce you to two of the strongest, longest serving activists in Trinidad and Tobago, two people I hold in the highest of regards. Joel D'Souza. Good evening, Joel.
Hi, how are you?
Trying to keep smiling in this crazy town. And
Yeah.
Mr. Gary Aboud.
Hi, Philip, and thank you for having us again. Honored to be here with you and your guests.
Hopefully Nazma gets in. Hopefully following what happens now going forward. If you click the link on your device, it will come up and you'll hear in the background. So try to mute your device.
I could speak for Nazma. I could represent Nazma.
All right, then you're gonna have to forward that memo to me so that I know. But Gary, as you're speaking, I reached out to you this morning. A lot of this is spinning out of control. And between when we spoke and now, the Minister of National Security said that he did not, that the ambassador in conversation directly with him raised no issue about the Brazil-Rio Treaty. And the ambassador was forced today to break diplomatic protocol and put out a release pretty much saying Stuart Young lied. How do you feel about that?
Oh, gosh, Philip, you never spare anything. No, I don't want to use obscene language. I have to speak in my, Joel, forgive me, but I have to speak in my personal capacity because there's a lot of rifts of opinion. Some people are saying that the UNC should not have reported it to the United States. My personal view is that if a minister or a government lies and is caught lying, then that is unforgivable because they are managing our treasury, our life savings, our heritage fund. They are managing our affairs. They have the Tonton Makut on their side, the full authority of the police with all of the arms and military training. And although I know your friend appears to be independent, in the past, we have had commissioners of police and individual members of the police service who have not been as forward and upright as they should have been. So there's always a public suspicion that the authorities of the state could coerce or use or misrepresent the public interest by the use of armed force. So I mean, with the greatest of respect, I think Stuart Young has brought a lot of good to the government. But when you do wrong, you have to pay for it if you're a public officer. And so what has happened with the American, with the importation of oil executives to Trinidad, I mean, it's really not our locus standi to speak about energy matters, but this is a matter of public integrity. And to have lied, I'm not concerned. I actually have no problem selling Venezuela oil at all. I'm a great supporter of the Bolivarian movement, even though I accept that there's major corruption there, as there is in the United States. I'm not judging the Venezuelan election and claiming that it is false. My issue is not whether or not we should or shouldn't sell oil to the Venezuelans. Like Rafiq Shah, I have no problem selling oil to anybody as long as we get paid. My problem is that you lied and you knowingly lied to the public.
Well, Gary, I want to tell you to up in there because if you just touch on the sale of oil, they have so much information there that we have no idea about the sale of that fuel. We don't know if it is Trinidad bought the fuel, who we bought the fuel from, who we sold the fuel to, who made the money. We know none of that. The only person who has seen this mythical contract that Stuart Young that says exists is his girlfriend, Asha Javid, who writes for the Express, and she said she saw it. But the rest of the country can't see it. Let me say good evening to Nazma. Nazma, I see you working hard to try and get in. welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you. This is what happens when you're using the neighbor Wi-Fi.
I'm sure your neighbor watching the show.
COVID. Yes, yes,
Nazma,
and she's
we, we're touching on an issue here because we're going to get into the activism in a minute. I just wanted to get some feedback from all of you on what is burning up the airwaves right now between the Minister of National Security and the Ambassador of the United States. This is unheralded, unprecedented. We are heading into dark and murky waters. Joel, how you feel about this?
Well, I've always said from day one that Stuart Young had gotten ahead of himself and that he he presided over Trinidad and Tobago at a point where he felt as if he was a god. And I said that in my first interview, and I thought that he was very rude and dismissive, and I thought that I just felt that he felt, as the public feels, that he was the minister of everything, and I knew that at some point of time it would catch up with him, and it seems that it has catch up with him.
I agree with you, Joel. This has been a brutal 5 years. Nazma, have you been following what has been taking place between the Minister of National Security and the Ambassador of the United States? What the state of Stuart Young lied? Have you been?
well, they're coming so fast and furious, but I do watch the ships lined up on the horizon down south. The U.S. warships. This thing is more real and live than we can imagine. I don't know what to say. Toda la gente necesita aprender español porque we don't even know what's going to happen with Venezuela. You'll be looking at America. What about Venezuela? This is long-term crisis. We are next door. We are a flea next door to Venezuela. And I hope everybody's brushing up on their Spanish because the Venezuelans are here. Están aquí.
Well, I agree with you on all of that, and I want to say something because David Naked was on the show last night, and he made a point, and I think that that point encapsulates the entire thing. If you're going to support Venezuela and flout the whatever treaties and agreements you have with the United States, own that. Don't give us subterfuge and put the country at risk. And it looks like that's what is taking place. And all of the conversation, Gary alluded to the UNC being the ones to report to the Americans. The UNC, by the time the UNC find their socks and their shoes, the American had all the information. All those political stunting and games in the parliament. The Americans ain't take on anything that Munilala, any of them have to say. Americans have all their information. And the PNM got that to spin as a narrative, to call Kamla and Munilal traitors. But they're irrelevant to the story. The story is, has Trinidad been put in danger?
Yes, we have. Did you see the American ambassador quoted the 1948 law called the what is the law name? It's called the
The Rio Treaty.
Is it in
correct.
Rio
I saw
talking about?
the Rio Treaty. Yes.
Well, I mean, I want to put my timer on here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Um, the part of the problem, guys, is that we are locked out. We are just fleas on a giant elephant, and the elephant does what
Correct.
it wants. Why don't we have a public education campaign? Why doesn't the government encourage a public education campaign where the public can fully understand what the CIA is doing overseas and what they do when they target particular economies, particularly the Venezuelan and the Bolivarian movement, which is a very credible movement that has been riddled with corruption, just like the democratic movement in the Caribbean. There's no Caribbean government that can stand the scrutiny of honesty in contracts and the award of contracts, in contracts given for the printing of money even. They're all riddled with weak legislatures, that have not evolved according to the problems that have evolved. So, I mean, the United States have a particular grouse with the Chavezian movement and the Bolivarian movement. And I have no problem with being led by a government that wants to confront this problem and wants to unify the Caribbean and Latin American region against the bullying of the American CIA with all of the overseas. I have a real problem with interference of democratic movements. And I'm not saying that Venezuela is not corrupt, but isn't Donald Trump's government corrupt in the manner in which he coerced Russian and I mean, there's so many things wrong in the world that I am not standing behind Big Brother. The problem that I have
Uh,
is that we are locked out. That's 1 minute and 54 seconds.
Gary, I just want to ask you this, right? Because everybody getting caught up in, at this point, none of us in government. So the burden is not on us to decide and to bring to the people of Trinidad and Tobago the decision-making process of who to side with now that it is a line has been drawn in the sea, Venezuela or America. You can't play both sides, so you have to decide who you're for. And we not in government, so we can't discuss if the Venezuelans legitimate or illegitimate, and if they're corrupt, and if Trump corrupt, and all of that drama. What we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, have to face is this: we live in a country heavily reliant on the United States trade two ways, and if we run afoul of that, what is our plan B? Nobody's telling us. The United States of America put sanctions. You saw today AT&T shut down Venezuela. DirecTV shut down Venezuela. They all pulling out. They know that something is coming. You could imagine Trinidad and Tobago if the United States of America start to freeze our accounts and cancel visas, send home people children from school. That is what we're talking about. Are we prepared for that?
Well, I think that between you and me, Philip, that I think that the Prime Minister and the gang who were related for this transactions, I think that the it's very clear from the actual ambassador that he's going to go after them because Trinidad and Tobago means a lot to the American government. So I think it may be better for the government, that the people that are involved, to maybe resign and allow for fresh new elections to come around and leave them out so that we wouldn't have the sanctions.
Well, for those looking on, we touched on the issue. We tried to touch on on all the circumstances surrounding that and pressing on those issues. But the purpose of this show tonight, Activists Assemble, is to get some voices of some strong, patriotic, civic-minded citizens who have put aside their own time and treasure and put themselves at risk repeatedly to fight for things that other people would benefit from, could benefit from. People, other people should be adding their voices too. I think that these are people who are living examples of what we should all be in Trinidad and Tobago, because if we were all willing to stand up for causes and issues, Trinidad and Tobago would be a much better country. We would not have lost our $3 trillion and we would not have wasted 58 years making billionaires out of bandits. Joel, as an activist, is Trinidad and Tobago right now and practice your activism?
If what?
Is Trinidad and Tobago an easy place for you to pursue and practice your activism? The
Of
things you
course
fight.
not. Of course not. As you know, we are under the Westminster system, and once a government, as you know, we all tried the last time to bring independence in the House so that this same thing could not ever happen, and we were not successful. And had we had independence in the House now, the government may not have been able to do exactly what they wanted to do. And once we don't have constitutional reform or a government that has independence in it, we are going to continue to always face a government that pretends to be sovereign, but really is a dictatorship government.
Nazma, how about you, girl? How do you feel being an activist in Trinidad and Tobago? The causes you fight for, is it an easy place to be at?
Yes and no. Yes, because we have signed enough treaties protecting human rights. So on the surface, our institutions must uphold bare, courtesies and so on. Like, they don't beat me up. I'm still in court for saying what I said. Um, so I don't think it is as difficult. I haven't been killed. We haven't been physically assaulted and so on. So I think Trinidad is a easy touch. It's just that people have been so intimidated, and then so many people have jobs with the government. And then the police are given so much power. And now I see Faris talking about no bail for gun-related offenses, but he don't live in a hotspot, and yet he felt his children needed to be trained in guns. So I hope the DPP is taking note of adult children guns and take it just seriously. Um, you know, we it's not that difficult. Trinidad and Tobago, you just need to come out and protest too. We need more numbers. We need people to be not so afraid. That's the problem. The problem is, beating children in primary school so that they learn fear from a very early age. There's nothing stopping people from coming out and protesting now. And why aren't they coming out? Because they're afraid. They're afraid they lose their jobs, they lose the $1,500 that they've been promised. They're afraid that the police grab them and discipline them, especially just not used to coming out to protest. That's a whole other dynamic that we have to talk about. Why aren't women more vociferous? Why aren't our women more adamant about their own rights?
It is too easy to attack and destroy your character if you stand up for something. It's too easy for people to just jump on a soapbox and assassinate Nazma Mullah or Gary Aboud or Joel D'Souza. I was aghast to be on a thread the other day and see the daughter of a former president attacking Joel over her sexuality and her gender and her choice. And I'm wondering to myself, you are the daughter of a former president. You should be upholding the highest standards of exchange between citizens, especially somebody who is fighting for issues that affect us all. And here you are, dragging your knuckles through the cesspool water. Gary Aboud, start your timer.
Well, Joel and Nazma, I want to take my hat off to you and to Philip as well, because you already touched my heart. And when we started 20 plus years ago, the landscape of activism wasn't the same. And I feel very proud to know you. I also want to say that over the past 20 years, I have been followed. My phones have been tapped, they are still tapped. Personal activities have been monitored. I have actually plunged upon people that have been following me, and they've admitted that they have to follow me. There's a whole string of things. The fire services and every different type of government agency, the customs have checked every single container that I've imported and made me go through great expense and headache to check basic items. So when it comes to the question of being a sore thumb in the face of the government, my experience has been different to yours, Nazma. I feel that I'm somewhat persecuted. Recently, I sent to the bank to get a bundle of 20s. One of them came back and it wasn't properly printed. I did a video and I got so completely blown out by my partner because that's going to have repercussions. But it's a fake $20 bill. It's improperly printed, but I'm not going to lie for 20 or 2,000 or 20,000 or 2 million because I don't need to and I'm not tempted by it. But I thought I would make a video that would be honest, that the fact that we have false and fake money that's being given out by central bank to the bankers, and the bankers won't take it back. Yesterday I had an experience where there were several water mains burst and water flipping, all of wasting water. And last week the minister announced that The government, central government is subsidizing WASA with $200 million a month. And I'm aware that Desalcott has drained this economy of over $10 billion in 20 years, $500 million a year to filter seawater that they don't even pay for. And we have the equivalent water that Desalcott produces being dumped in the Oropouche River every year, just that river alone. And yet the government are gerrymandering and playing games. So, you know, Fitzgerald Hines is a friend of mine, and we used to shake and meet and hug each other. But today he's an enemy of mine because I criticized the crap he did when he was minister in charge of WASA, did nothing, improved nothing. The economic drain, WASA employs 5 times as many people for the amount of pipelines that they have compared to the world average. WASA is a major fiasco and a vehicle of corruption, and yet nothing is being done. So 2 minutes and 54 seconds. So when we talk about how I feel about being an activist, when you talk about poor people being bullied, people without jobs, people without food, and the largesse of the society is taken control of by a few people with massive rentals of government properties at values that cannot compare to what the private sector is renting for right across the street. I think we are lucky we don't live in Brazil and some of the Latino and African countries where we would have been exterminated already. But it's not as though the society is embracing us. It's a conservative society, and they look at us like outcasts, extremists, and so we have failed in being able to forge a very popular national movement. So I'm hoping, I keep praying and hoping when we started 20 plus years ago that the society would have evolved, but I'm still praying and hoping that we could embrace each other and welcome the whole question of public participation in public interest matters. 4 minutes and 5 seconds.
We will have to refer you to the Privileges Committee for abuse of the stopwatch. But on that point that you just raised about the Salcott, I feel to just turn off the video and go my way. Because that is an insanity, Gary Aboud. In a country that gets 10,000 times more rain than we could ever use, that we've built a water management system to catch the water in the hills and wash it out to the sea. Why this country is so insane, Gary?
All of the desalination, there's more than Desalcott. There are 2 other ones. And I have a lot of inside information about the minister who signed off on these agreements. There are a lot of suspicious things surrounding. For instance, Desalcott's agreement was renewed 18 months before its expiration. Why did the minister, and I'm not calling names because this is life and death. This one is life and death. Why did the minister renew the agreement 18 months before it was due to be renewed? And the minister knows himself. What could be the motive? Why not let it expire and negotiate a price for water downwards? The company has already covered. It cost that company 200 million US, 1.2 billion TT. So they have earned revenues 10 times in excess of what it costs to establish a facility, and the recurrent costs are almost minimum. It's not a staff heavy operation, it's just machines filtering water. There are even more problems. The turning basin where the water is pulled in is an area where several Point Lisas companies discharge heavy metals, and the filtration system of Desalcott does not have the capacity to filter heavy metals. That was our original complaint when the facility was established in the Pandey era 20 years ago, because the filtration system can take the salt out of the water, but it cannot take the dissolved heavy metal contaminants that are being discharged by the 6 companies that's discharged into that turning basin. So the question arises, what are our people drinking?
And Gary, but I want to tell you this, you see, I don't focus just on the corruption. Because if you were the Minister of Public Utilities at the time, you were the Prime Minister at the time, and you said, okay, look, we are projecting because they had to project. They were signing a contract. The contract is billable numbers, so you knew that in 10 years you would have spent $5 billion, and in 20 years you would have spent $10 billion. So that's a mortgage. That's a mortgage money. So you're telling me, and we couldn't go to RBC and Scotia, who making $1 billion every quarter in this country. We couldn't go to international bankers and say, listen, we want to spend $5 billion in this country building retention ponds and lakes to hold the bounty of rainwater that we get. Because, you know, you bring us to this point, and this is what NASMA was protesting outside the Prime Minister's house when I went to meet them the other morning. You trying to tell me that we couldn't use this money instead and invest it in retention ponds to protect this country against flood and drought, and instead handing it off to unseen hands who have benefited from a lifetime of earnings for water in a country that should not be buying water? This is insane. Nazma,
Well,
you
there are
were
more
protesting.
than one. There's even plans to put a desalination facility in Tobago, and there's one in Deep South. And I mean, Joel, it's such a waste because there are so many people who cannot put bread on their table for one of a million reasons. They don't get proper education. There's not the correct infrastructure to allow them to develop. And now we have an additional 100,000 Venezuelans of the lower echelon, less skilled, less trained, that are added into the ghettos that we have to take care of. And so there are serious concerns, Nasma. And we
Listen,
getting
The
locked up
desal plan
for
that you
a
speak
roll
about in
on.
Point Fortin, that doesn't work, you know. It pulls sand in it. You remember we had one commissioned in Point Fortin. That doesn't work. It's too close to the shore, so it pulls sand in. There is another one in La Brea that works.
But the question of the quality of water that they're pulling in, because that is the most contaminated water we have in the country. A lot of people don't realize, Philip, that there was a study done of mercury contamination of fish on the East Coast. That was done for United Nations Convention. It was the Minamata Convention, which comes out of the Basel. Minamata is a place in Japan that was heavy mercury poisoning, that were poisoning the community, and when they tested it, so there's now an international convention to test transboundary waste that is transported in fish, because the mercury is in the fish and we export the fish. And what they found is 7 of the 15 fish that we eat in Trinidad and Tobago were contaminated with mercury at up to 5 times the level of safe consumption. But that's the East Coast where the water is cleanest. The government, in their wisdom, did not check the water of the Gulf of Paria, which is the dirtiest. So there are all kinds of serious questions about our 5,000 plus fishermen who make a living and their dependents and family, which are 10 to 1, that make a living and survive off the Gulf of Paria, and the quality of fish that they are feeding to our people and the quality of fish that we are eating. And again, close eyes, keep quiet, don't talk about it. Instead, they will say that I am victimizing the fishermen because I can afford to eat imported fish. I only eat local fish. So you see the question of being victimized. Some issues are different to others. The issue that Nazma faces is a critical national issue where the conservatives will want to victimize her and those who smoke by choice. And so she will be ostracized and victimized and put into a corner. But there are other issues that affect us all. And even in those issues, we are ostracized and locked out. They don't want to hear
and,
it.
and that's the point. And I'll throw this out to the three of you all. And that's the point, because there's a saying, until those who are not affected are as outraged as those who are, nothing is going to change. Trinidadians live that as long as my corner safe, forget everybody else. I'm not putting myself in danger. I'm not stepping out of my crease. I'm not putting my hamper or my HDC house or my URP contract or my access to call a minister on the phone. I'm not putting that in jeopardy. We live in a corruption forward society where we trade our silence for benefits. And they don't understand that a day will come. You see, we've lost thousands of people to murder in this country. And if you are not one of those people who lost one of those people to murder, then murder don't affect you yet. But if you go and talk to the loved ones of those murder victims left behind to mourn, that's a scar on their lives for the rest of their lives, and they would have hoped at some point that something could have been done to protect them. Look, you mentioned this issue here, and it is so obscene, and I think that the billions of dollars that we spend every 5-year term in office to get nothing in exchange. This cannot continue. The question I want to ask is this. The country is rich with strong activists. Are there sufficient people in this country who are willing to stand up and support and get involved and vote themselves a better country? Or are we wasting time?
No. I think Philip, I think that Philip, what has happened is that Trinidad and Tobagonians have lost all hope. Their spirit is broken. I reach out to many people that I know like myself, and they're just all broken. I think successive governments have actually broken them. Remember that when these people get into office, and they have to toe lines for their government, and people just, that's it. After we vote, the government comes into power, there is nothing we actually can do. So that's what it is. People are just broken hearted, broken spirited. So people just don't think it matters to be an activist or to come out and say anything. Look at us, we've got our businesses locked up for months. And we've been writing the Prime Minister, the ministers, and no one has actually really, no one has actually replied. Absolutely no reply.
No reply.
No reply.
No, the fleas, we are the fleas. And it seems as though we accept this role of being a flea. We embrace it, and that's part of the problem. The whole society embraces that we are powerless, we can't do nothing, and we are just a flea on the back of our prime minister
Correct.
who we go where he goes. And
No,
that is
but
part of
this
the
prime
problem.
minister, you must admit that this prime minister, we've had prime ministers in the past, but you must admit that this prime minister is definitely a bully. He is,
But Joel,
he is,
the trend of our prime ministers is a graph going down. Every prime minister is the worst until the next one. Every
no, this one take the cake, Philip.
They said that
This
about the
one
last
is,
one. I'm not knocking you. I am agreeing with you, but I'm saying we're trending down and we're getting worse. I remember the things that Patrick Manning was accused of was insanity. And then along came Bastille Pandey and Hafiz Karamat and Lawrence Dupre and Ish and Steve and all the other dramas that went on while he was prime minister. And then um, Manning came back and doubled down with Calder Hart, and then Kamla Prasad came, and we had SIS and Ram Logan and all the other dramas that we heard, and now Rowley. I mean, the people, when Gary said, you say,
but then Philip, it's time for us to change the constitution.
I have had people on this show who I have asked questions of, including former Prime Minister Pandey. And I asked them these questions. I had Vishnu Ramlogan, that's his last name, who is the political scientist. And I asked him, how do you change these things? The conundrum that is Trinidad and Tobago is this. You can't get into government because it's racist politics. But you have to find a way to get beyond racist politics to get into government before you could even begin the process of changing the things that you need to change. And in the 5 years that you have, the obstructionists in the public service, the PNM and some UNC obstructionists will make sure that you do not succeed. So you have to literally look at all of that mess. The politics is like a pool of sharks that you need to swim through to get to a river of crocodile and alligator. I do not know how again to get Trinidadians to see. I went outside the Prime Minister's office to support Philip Franco and Gus Youssef because they told me that the police was intimidating them. And I went to do a video and I went to demonstrate every single one of the government ministers who are telling the public lies right now. Colin Membert is lying. His whole COVID-19 budget breakdown is accounting fraud. How did VAT refunds become part of a COVID-19 response? How did hotel renovations become part of a COVID-19 response? The Minister of Health is saying that a second wave coming, bury yourself in the ground, we got dead, but give $400 million to Caribbean Airlines who gears it up to open the borders to bring the second wave in. The entire thing is a mad mess. When I mentioned Stuart Young, I didn't expect all of this would have come out in the next 48 hours. We are living in a mad, mad place. And unless and until all of Trinidad and Tobago put aside all of the drama that will make them look at other people, I am seeing Gypsy crossing the floor. Gypsy going to be the candidate now for the PNM in Moruga Tableland. I watched Fitzgerald Hines, Gary Aboud best friend. Fitzgerald Hines failed in Laventille East, so you bring him in Laventille West. Fail as public utilities minister, you fire him. You send him to carry Faris bag, now you have to fire Lee Hunt because Lee Hunt wants you to fire Scott. So you put Fitzgerald Hines back as the minister of public utilities. I mean, the whole thing is a circus and a joke now.
It is a joke. And that's why I tell you that people have lost all hope. And people have lost all, they've just lost all hope. And until you could actually bring a government where there are people that don't carry that sort of baggage, I think a whole new government needs to be installed. And I think that you need to leave the ministers as ministers and leave the members of parliament as members of parliament.
Absolutely. That's called separating the legislature from the executive, and we've known that for 30 years, and no government would do it. Like we know proportional representation is critical to the population, no government would do it. Recall legislation that will fire non-performing members of parliament is critical, no government would do it. Referendum, the things that Gary Aboud has been fighting for. If we had referendum as law, NASMA, the things that she's been fighting for, you with the animal rights and the other things that you fight for, referendum is critical. Robert Amar is now fighting for referendum alone. And this piecemeal way, it's too easy to attack people who stand up. It's too easy to assassinate their character. It's too easy for Trinbagonians.
People like us are strong and we resilient and whatnot. But when you're in, I've listened to Basdio Pandey and he says that all an opposition can really do is to talk, right? The only time that we will have that opportunity is on that day that we vote. So Philip, if we know that we can't get that this is a two-horse race, then you're gonna have to at least get some independence in the house so that we could try and make sure that one of those horses go in the right direction.
But Joel, and I just want to say this, and I've had members of parliament, current members of parliament on the show. I've had former ministers and members of parliament, and again a former prime minister, and I asked them, the parliament is the place that fixes all of this. The parliament gives the opposition strength. The parliament can make the speaker of the house a functional office. It is the parliament to fix all of this. But when they get into office, they spend their time paving the way for 5 and 6 Disalcots so that the retirement plan for them and their great-grandchildren fix.
Once we get it, once you put a party together that has people who are really looking towards the country's benefits. I mean, the first ideal would be to change the constitution so that they would not have that sort of power anymore.
Gary Aboud.
Well, I have something to say to Joel. I want to say that, I mean, you have come a long way and you are a representative of a movement for social justice in a very particular and different way, that you have made a significant contribution, not only to Trinidad, but to other countries where people are discriminated against. As we know, you probably have had greater success than all of us put together in what you and your movement have been able to achieve for smokers being discriminated and persecuted, arrested, shot, and killed. But all of the great social movements on the planet have been led by leaders who have a focus for the long term. So don't ever think that you are losing or that there's no hope or that your followers are demoralized and given up hope. You are the beacon of hope. So you have a duty, even when you feel broken, most broken, you have to recuse yourself, go into your regenerative capacity and rebuild and fortify and come back out. And you've seen it with people like this famous guy Mandela, who was incarcerated for 26 years and still came out and bore no grievance against those who had persecuted him. You've seen it with Martin Luther King, with his great presentation, such a heroic person. So today we gave a presentation on on environmental activism to a group of environmental activists who we are involved with in a program to train new and young environmental activists and community groups to empower them. And the project we were dealing with in particular was the Toko Port. And what I said to them was 20 years ago, the Toko Port came and there was a whole string of information that came forward. Today, the Toko Port came back 20 years later, and the information and the sociology of what they were doing the last time is even worse this time. But today we have the history of what we went through 20 years ago. So the work we do today will be harvested by the future community spirited activists, if you want to call it, 20 years from now. So don't guess that at any time that we are failed, even if, for instance, even if, God forbid, Philip does not succeed in his movement for political electorate, even if there's great victory in what we do day by day and what Philip has done day by day. It's not so. Don't ever. I just think that's really important for me to say as a contribution. And I don't want you to lose hope. I want you to have courage and to give that sense of hope to the people who listen to you and who look at you for that leadership. Even though sometimes you would despair and think there's little hope, as I often feel, I recuse myself, I go to the river and I attempt to regenerate in the cathedral of nature to come back and bring a fresh. That's my little.
Gary, I want you to know something in plain talk. This Prime Minister has let this country down, whether you like it or not. He has a cabinet, I think, that only exists of about 3 or 4. The rest of his cabinet has disappeared. And at the end of the day, everyone that you meet, they tell you directly, this Prime Minister has let them down. He has made them feel hopeless. He does not give them any encouragement. And so I have to tell you, even myself, listening to him on Saturday, I thought that we were a country that was about to actually fall apart and never come back again, when actually we have absolutely no coronavirus at this point of time. And here we are, locked down in our homes, in our businesses, and we are not allowed to do many things, while countries like Grenada and Barbados are opening up. And I just feel that this Prime Minister has just lost his way.
Well, if it were that they were shutting us down, then shut down everybody. But what is so safe about Bhagwan Singh's? With crowds of people, 400 cars in the car park every morning at 8 o'clock. What is so safe about? I mean, I have friends. My friends opened a company right in Cokery, Thomas Peak. What is safe about them? With crowds of people, that is unsafe about some. What is safe about dentists?
Harry,
treating people with mouth open.
I need a pair of shoes. I need a pair of running shoes. I can't get that in St. Christopher gas station. I can't get it in
No,
Peaks. I can't get it in Massey. It's not in Superfarm. Nazma, say something, girl. People want to know. Say something. Plenty thing passing by.
Well, well, the thing is, the ganja dealers and farmers had to be working anyway, right through, round the clock, through the COVID crisis, and through all of that is going on with Venezuela. There's some sick people, very sick people, a lot of people
but
suffering from stress. So
nothing
my
coming in
work
by
is
planes.
done. My work still going. We so fields and give the ganja farmers their license. Is either they legalize or license the farm. And that is very urgent because the clinical trials have been that show that some strains of cannabis prevent coronavirus. So urgency now to show just how important ganja is. And I have great hope. That is probably why I don't seem as distressed because I think the ganja farmers are already the way forward. The in
You
future
know,
we're looking at, and we can replace oil and gas with hemp fuel. There's so much we can do with hemp, especially. But this attorney general actually, what he did was he made hemp illegal. That is a whole set of evil that we have to work on as well. He actually expanded the definition of cannabis to include hemp. He broadened it to nuts. So I laugh because they're numbered. As my mentor said, we don't win, they lose.
and I want to
Look,
say that my mother had 6 ganja plants. And so she told me, she said, Gary, and she's 85, 86. She says, illegal for me to have 6. Take 2 for me now. So I said, Mom, what you doing with that? She said, I'm going to make tea.
no, because
So,
Gary, I want to tell you, if you get licks from your mother, you look for that for putting her business out here, and mom, I apologize on behalf of the show for your son out of time and behavior. Look, I mean, the truth of the matter is people looking for hope. I have to believe that you and Gary were correct, and all of us, we have to believe that people looking for hope, and we have to find a way. I keep saying to assemble the Avengers, we are running out of time. Joel, I think it was you who
Yes,
mentioned, or Nazma who mentioned that the no bail for guns, but Faris Charon could stunt with guns. He's the Attorney General. I mean, if you
up to
really look at
now,
it,
that question has never been answered, Philip.
not his Charon, it's not his Charon. He say Xiao Chang say it and he Charon, and you know Xiao Chang don't lie.
Many questions have been asked by this government. You know that. Like Derek Smith, Shamfa Kajo, many questions, and they've never been answered. This government has never been a government that answered questions. You know that. I mean, under the last administration, they still answered questions and but this government has been a government that has been tight and have never answered questions about those children with the guns, Derek Smith, Shamfa Kajo, the woman that walked the road with the money.
It's too easy to
I want
punish
to
people. I just want to
I
say
want
this.
to
It's too
ask
easy. I will.
I want to ask
I belong to you, sir, Mr. Aboud.
no, we keep forgetting things that happened last month. The 10-day wonder. Philip, whatever happened? Where was the report on the 500 million new bills that were missing? Remember when the new bills came out, there was an issue of $500 million in printed bills, the new $100 notes that could not be accounted for. Was there any investigation or final report on what happened to that money?
Gary, the fact that you could raise that shows that it's an insult to the intelligence of every sitting Trinidad and Tobagonian that had to hear that the AV oil investigation was closed, not because people were found innocent, but because the investigation and the prosecution collapsed. We live in a country where you could make a jail for corned beef and cricks, but if you thief $100 million in oil, walk free, partner. All
Walk
who
free.
listen, walk free. Talk your
They get
talk.
your
You
church.
propose, Mr.
Yesterday,
Alexander.
yesterday, Joel, I was in St. James where there's a community living on Bonds Road that are very
Yeah.
concerned. If you take a drive in St. James and look up on the Fort George Road, you could see it from the highway. A developer employed by Guardian Life, Guardian, famous Guardian, the billion-dollar company, are doing a development of 10 acres of land. The land is more than 45 degrees. They have taken off every single tree, not put any drains. There is powdered sand coming off of it like you have no idea. The rains are coming. We are in lockdown, but they have bulldozers working in lockdown. So we went to take pictures of it to do a social media video because the community have been calling on us to come to their help because their houses will flood. The police come and tell us to go down the road, leave them alone. They will deal with it, go down the road. I say, but you can't tell me to go down the road. I'm in a public road. No, 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 leave here now, trying to manhandle me. If I was black and under 20, they would have probably taken me down. But I stood up to them. I said, you have no right to tell me to come off my public road. Well, don't take no video. I say, I could take a video of anything I want. You cannot control what video I
You
take.
can go, you can go Hilton Hotel on the balcony. I mean, they've cut the face off a mountain. You see it from Pizza Hut, Roxy Roundabout
God.
in St. James. They literally cut the face
But
off of a mountain.
the police went, they talked to the developer, who I actually know and is very angry with me, is a family friend, which puts me in a real conflict because, I mean, I don't like screwing friends, but do the wrong thing. The truth is the truth. The police never stopped them. They continued working while the police were there. The police drove off and they continued working. And then the developer calls me to tell me that he's putting in a drain to prevent the mud from washing into the community. He could put in 50 drains. He cannot control the amount of mud that's going to come off of that mountain. It's not possible. And even if he got it
And
into
you
a
see the
drain,
prediction for the rainy season, eh?
unbelievable. So here's the police, and I told the police, I said, you're charging little black boys. You're charging them $80,000 for swimming in Cocoa Reach. But here is $1 billion development, and nobody's being charged. What kind of discrimination
Gary,
exactly?
every day I go to work every single day to prove a point to this government that that I can go to my job. And do you know that every day when I go to my job, I have the police come and visit me?
And my assistant
Every
asked me,
single day.
my program director messaged me and she asked me to get your number. She wanted to make an appointment to come and see you tomorrow. So we have one customer
Yeah.
that's coming for sure. Let him arrest you.
Yeah,
It's so wrong.
and every single day I have police come to my salon, and only yesterday Mr. Ramesh Miraj advised me, don't let them in, because I always welcome them in to the salon so they could see what's going on. But he advised me yesterday, do not let them come in because they don't have a search warrant.
Well, I will come and do my hair too because they have no right to be shutting us down and letting other people stay open. My problem is they're discriminating about who could open, who can't open. And
Yeah,
therein
and
lies the problem. KFC,
KFC causes
exactly.
more heart attack.
Exactly. And Whitco to create cigarettes for people to smoke up a storm without getting
Correct.
high, worse again.
And with Corn KFC was able to open up, to know they were going to get permission to open up long before they actually were told they were going to open. I mean, I asked the lawyer today, I asked him, I said, if you can't go on the law that the health minister has put in place, right? let us go on the law that they are being biased. So we have to look into the law and see if we could find a way to go forward with it being biased, because clearly what makes the difference with a
Joel,
manufacturer's
Joel, it is time for judicial review of the government's handling of coronavirus. It is time for that. And it is time for judicial review that uncovers all of the contracts and all of the financial wheeling and dealing. They are using this coronavirus and milking it for all the ways that they could distract and
Did you
fool people.
see that they spent $1 million to put up a fence? $1 million they used to put up a fence.
Joel, I have pictures of the Red House from 2012 when I was in the Red House. And I have had to ask, how did we spend $500 million renovating something that was functional up to 2012? We are watching a situation now where $500 million was spent and they had to take the parliament out of the waterfront that was built to be an international financial center, but nobody in the international financial community were ever contacted before the contracts were given out to build that $1 billion international waterfront. So now they have to move the courts from the Hall of Justice to put them in the waterfront building to save us $60 million. I don't know what the $60 million is they're saving, but I know that when they take the courts out of the Hall of Justice, that building is going to stand up there and rot for you, the court or whoever, to come along and get the next $500 million to go and do that again. We've been lied to, taken advantage of, robbed. You're talking about court. Noel Garcia, the chairman, the head of the HDC, is suing me in his personal capacity. You, the court, is suing me. Prakash Ramadan just got a judgment from the Privy Council that says it is almost too obvious to need stating that public officials and public entities have to be able to stand scrutiny. I have to be able to ask about the $500 million spent on the Red House. I have to be able to
You
ask,
been to
how did
White
you
House?
how
Have you
did
been
you
to
give
Whitehall recently?
so wait, how did you give a $51 million contract for doors and windows, and it's the same doors and windows that was there, to a man who was the head of HDC himself?
Well,
It
then
is
you haven't
ins
been to Whitehall. Whitehall is properly well renovated. You need to go have a look at that with an
42
extra
million.
building on it.
Joel, you want to know what is an insult to Trinidadians? Behind President's house is a cottage that the last president used to live in. We've spent
Correct.
$17 million renovating a cottage, not building one from scratch.
I
Not even
remember well.
Sabga House. The man who built Sabga House tell me not even Sabga House cost $17 million. How did we renovate a cottage? Gary Aboud, $106 million renovated president's house. Sold select contracts awarded to a company that the wife of the minister of health is a senior member of that company. These are the insanities. We all deal with different issues. We all champion different causes. But when you look at
Yeah.
what the government have done this country, when we talk about 58 years and $3 trillion and nothing to show for it, that's working. It is the people of Trinidad and Tobago that has allowed all of this to happen.
Well, my friend, you haven't seen
Philip,
Whitehall as yet.
when I was a schoolboy, I wanted to make the world a better place. And when I was about 24 years old, I gave up and I decided to educate myself and to immerse myself in training and reading because I thought university had miseducated me. And in university, I studied political sociology. And well, the modern thinking in political sociology was that there was I think there was the hope. I think it was more based on hope that there would be a future politicians who would be genuinely interested in the public, who would be deliberately honest and concerned about correcting and improving and evolving the society. And we've had maybe 3 or 4% of the political leaders on the planet and politicians in general. I think Lincoln Myers was one of that, like that. I think Jerry Pantin RIP, both of them were people like that. The leader of Colombia did a lot of good. We've had one in Mexico recently. We've had good leaders in the world. But here in Trinidad, Joel, and in most of the CARICOM region, there are very few. You could count them on your hand. There's one in Jamaica I'm aware of. There have been a couple of good people who have not gone into politics to become rich and who have been. I think Prakash Ramada, I actually think he's a good guy. Now, I might be wrong, but there are some people who have done good, but there are not enough people. And why I came onto this program is because I wanted to encourage both of you, Nazma and Joel and Philip, to continue. I would love nothing more than being able to contribute in the greatest possible and meaningful way to the country. But the choices we have made in FFOS is one where we have decided to go a different road and to be independent of all of the political movements and to support and encourage them all to be the best that they can be. And so I want to encourage you all and to lend my support in any way that I can, because I really believe that
Yeah,
we
but
are
Gary,
stuck
Gary, and I need to interrupt you here because the PNM is engaging in a populist kind of politics that is frightening. The gypsy that sang Captain, the ship is sinking of the PNM joined the worst version of the PNM because it suits his pockets now. Brian Manning, who never set foot in San Fernando East, doing things his way, gone to fight for San Fernando East to trade on his father's reputation and his father's name. Abu Bakr, of all people, defending Rowley and Stuart Young and the madness that's taking place in this country. And I am looking around and I'm thinking, if all of us who thinking that I'm going to hold my corner and streamline my, because I want to say this, nobody speaks truth to power like I do. And I have no problem shutting up today. I know that I raise issues so big in the public space that they cannot escape it. And it takes a lot. You can't do this with a fine-tooth comb. You have to do this with a sledgehammer. We are fighting criminals in high places. And if you all don't realize that yet, if you think that 10 billion in 20 years was accidental or that it is not being funneled into deviant government official hands, former members of parliament, when you tell me a prime minister doesn't know what's going on in the country, in their cabinet, all of you here run business. All of you know, if you hemorrhaging money, you know where it's going and who exactly responsible. If all of us who are neither fish nor fowl, if all of us who are neither PNM nor UNC don't come together and stand up for Trinidad and Tobago now with a real plan to rescue it, forget it. Get your passport, get ready. As soon as that airport open, get the hell out of this place. Trinidad going to hell in a handbasket. If either the PNM or the UNC, you see the candidates Kamala scraping up and put it in the Senate and put it in front of your face and tell you vote for that. You see it? The PNM and the UNC is two sides of the same cancer. Trinidadians drowning in vomit. And if we who are the last best chance at hope, brave, courageous voices, critical thinkers, civic-minded patriots, if we don't find a way to come together and work together, it's all over for Trinidad.
But I want to say two
That's
things.
exactly what we have to do.
One thing is that my brother Gregory wrote an article to the Express or the news, in the TV, the newspaper, in his personal capacity about a young child, a 13-year-old child that drowned, and that he has fought for so many years that we should put swimming on the school curriculum in an island surrounded by sea, two islands, where the cheapest, most healthy recreation is swimming. People don't know how to swim. 70% of all fishermen can't swim. They can't swim, but they're on the sea. I mean, there's so many small things that need to be fixed. The other thing I want to say, Philip, is that when you say that Trinidad is, if we don't do what we can do now, Trinidad, we will lose Trinidad. I want to correct that. I think we need to correct that now.
Before you correct me, because you mentioned your brother, right? Your brother's head of Doma for the past 20 years. My parents, when I was a little boy, used to take me walking downtown. Window shopping. Harrimans and Woolworth and Stevens and Johnsons. My parents would take us on a Sunday to walk around downtown in the night. The
Right.
we have the Woodford Square padlocked at night. Brian Lara Promenade, piss and vagrant capital of the world. We mismanaged every single thing. Gary, I want to tell you, there is a way and a plan forward to fix everything. Louis Leasing was supposed to be on the show. What's today? Tuesday or Wednesday? Today's Tuesday. Louis Leasing was supposed to be on the show tonight. And Louis Leasing called me to tell me, Phil boy, I had to back out. And I know it's not easy to come on the show. It takes real belly and backbone to come here and stand up and talk again about a country that the governments have facilitated the looting of $3 trillion. Trinidad and Tobago, that is a capital of the illegal
Yes.
narcotics empire, a country that the prime minister could admit has 42,000 illegal weapons, a dot in the sea, and you can't secure it. Our helicopters grounded, our coast guard in Chagaramas. If the Americans wasn't here pulling cocaine out of the sea, none of them cocaine that we would have get. And I am telling you, this is not an easy fix. This is not clinking glasses and making friends and liming in the Chamber of Commerce. This is a government that's willing to undo and redo Trinidad and Tobago, Gary Aboud. And you've given too much of your life. You've given too much of your life to let it pass and to go. This country cannot survive much more of this.
The thing I wanted to say, I agree with you about what you've said about the failures to protect our city and our public spaces, and that is also a national failure. I'm not defending him, but there is a failure to protect our city, but I'm not getting involved in defending or criticizing my brother. What I want to say is that
No, I wasn't criticizing him. I was saying
no,
to
no,
you, bloom where you
that
planted. I
yes, but
I can see.
I'm in support of what you're saying. Because I'm a member of DOMA as well, and we've lost our capital city, but we've lost safety everywhere. A woman is not free to walk anywhere after 7 p.m., in my opinion. Alone, not safe, dangerous.
But,
Even a
but
man
Gary,
is not safe.
we paved the savannah to sell chicken and chips. We could have created on the Brian Lara Promenade on Independence Square at night what they do in the savannah opposite Memorial Square. We could have done that 100 times the size. We could have created an opportunity for 500 food truck vendors, put lights and security and cleaners and music playing and Latin dancing and place for all Calypsonians to come and sing their song and tell their poems and sit down and play chess. When you go to the promenade, drive down there tonight and ask yourself what that money spent for. What it spent for? Why did we have to
But
pave the savannah to sell corn soup when we could have been doing it down there at Brighton back up? Why Woodford Square doesn't give Orange Sky free of charge tonight? Come and perform. Give it to Black Stalin. Give it to anybody who want to
yes,
perform in Woodford Square. Come and perform
yep.
for free. Take it from us for
In
free
St.
and let people
Martin,
come
that's what
back
they
in. And
do.
that's just one. Tell me, Joel.
St.
Nazma,
Martin does
Nazma, I
that.
can speak. Joel, I can speak with authority. I belong to the 99% of the 1%. I am a member of the 1%, bona fide. I'm not the 1% of the 1%. I'm the 99 of the 1. But I've been to Haiti, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Bolivia, Colombia, Venezuela, Cuba. I've been all over. I travel all over because I travel to work. And what I can tell you, even in Santo Domingo and Haiti, where you have excruciating poverty, even in Chennai, what was once called Calcutta, where you have excruciating poverty, where every morning you have vehicles that drive around to pick up dead off the street. Billionaires continue to make billions of dollars. Business continues. So when we talk about hellhole and Trinidad losing Trinidad, it is the 99% who are losing Trinidad. The 1% or the corporate elite or the business connected and the big companies, the extractors of oil and minerals who are paying a minuscule percentage of royalty compared to what they pay overseas. They will continue to profit here, and they are the ones who are promoting business as usual and financing political parties to continue with the existing method of doing business. The other thing I wanted to say, is that the 99%, the middle class in particular, who are probably 30% of the 99% or 20% of the 99%, that middle class stands to lose more than anybody else. They are the ones who are going to lose. And when I heard the statistics that Trinidad has 800,000 passport holders living abroad, those 800,000 people that are living abroad, that is the best 800,000 of Trinidad. That is the brain drain they're talking about. That is all the
Boss,
professional and skilled people who we paid to educate, who left because we did not provide an opportunity.
you hit it on the
And
park. That is a
Young
fact.
Manning in particular, young Manning who coming down here to Grand Charge, let him come forward and explain to Trinidad and Tobago how he got a contract to supply $93 million worth of streetlights to his father's government when all the streetlights were working. He got the contract. It was a closed contract. Let him come and explain how he got the contract to supply Coast Guard with hundreds of millions of dollars of Coast Guard vessels that were not even properly equipped, that were rusted and parked up there now. And he's so shamed with all his hundreds of millions of dollars to come back here and put his face forward as a person fighting for the public interest. Bring him on this program, let me talk to him. And then I would be happy to say that we could have justice and social justice. But
Gary Aboud, I want to say to you again, and you just hit it out the park. You hit at 12. That time was 6. You hit at 12. But I want to tell you, brother, it's not enough to be talking anymore. There are a lot of people talking on Facebook, on social media. There are people beating drum on the corner. When election come, if the only choices is PNM and UNC, all of this talk was a waste of freaking time because they're two sides of the same cancer.
Nazma, my program director is messaging me saying to shut up and to let you and Joel talk. She messaged me here. So I want to hear from you. Nazma, what you want to do for the next 12 months?
None.
How are you going to move
Say
your
that
agenda
again.
forward in the public?
I think Nazma having
Well, I
difficulty with her.
started.
We're listening
Nazma,
to you, Nazma.
You're coming in and out.
Yeah, that's the problem, Gary. She's been having a connection problem from the start. We gotta bring her back to a show. She's been present. I don't know how much she's heard, but she has the with her connection tonight. But Joel, based on what Gary was just saying,
In what respect you mean, Philip?
well, what is your plans for the next 12 months? Are you going to become more
My
involved
well,
in
my
public
my
life?
next 12 months, Philip. I don't know if Philip have told you that recently we tried to bring all the party groups together, and we were unsuccessful in bringing them together under one umbrella. And so I think that we have to continue to amalgamate a lot of these party groups together in order for us to be strong enough to face a general election. I read that in 1986, NER was formed in a few weeks, and they went on to taking 30 seats and leaving 3 behind. I
Joel,
think that Philip.
that's why it didn't last. We all need to talk now. And I keep telling all of y'all, I don't need any job, I don't need no post, I don't need no position, I don't need no contract, I don't want a shortcut. I just want a better Trinidad and Tobago that I can grow old in. Because there are places calling me and calling my name and saying, come and live here, we will live well. But I know Trinidad and Tobago and I want to live and die here. I want to raise my family here. Gary talk about the best of us that living abroad. My brother is an epidemiologist with Canada Health, the front line of this coronavirus. but he can't get a proper job in Trinidad and Tobago. We all know stories like these. We have to put this together now publicly, and the people have to see that it is not just marriages of convenience, that these people stand together on these things and they put things in place to safeguard it, to come into office, to fix it for the country. I just want a better Trinidad and Tobago.
But how do we do that? You, Philip, have
Legalize
studied that.
weed.
How do we go about it? Tell us and we will do it.
Nasma says legalize the weed. That's her solution
No,
there.
no, it is a real solution because I think Colorado and California have proven that it is a real money earner. And I think the scientists have proven that it is a real replacement for pharmaceuticals. And I did hear Gary's question, and my answer to it is that in the next 12 months we'll see medical cannabis take the forefront in my campaign, and I am now speaking with the Medical Association of Trinidad and Tobago on their official stance on the endocannabinoid system and cannabis, because this is really something that is in the realm of science and medicine. And everyone who has had an ailment and been treated with cannabis can tell you that it has helped. So right now I've spoken with Mr. Dial Singh. Faris Alwawi is well aware that we can start cultivating marijuana legally right now. We have been able to do so for the last 20 years, and successive governments have hidden this information deliberately, and this government is continuing to do so for its own nefarious purposes. Right now, every single person in Trinidad and Tobago could be cultivating marijuana to create cannabis oil, which is worth a lot of money internationally and locally. What is stopping us? This government. They have
What's stopping you?
Faris Al-Rawi he wrote the
West
regulations.
for West Indian Cannabis Company to register itself when it was still illegal to register a name like that. But anyway, bigger fish to fry. Joel, we
Yes.
need, and I want to say this, and I know Gary might disagree with me, and I don't mind because I love Gary and what he stands for, and I think that he is a beacon of hope, and I too. We don't all have to agree on everything, but I want to say this to you. I honestly believe Trinidad is staring into the abyss right now. I think that
Yes, I believe so.
we are financially broken to a point where we are not even aware of how bad things are going to be for this country post COVID-19 with a looted Heritage and Stabilization Fund, an IMF that have bigger countries to support and prop up than little Trinidad and Tobago, a nation that can't give its oil away, whose refinery has been stolen. That's the only way to describe what the government did with Petrotrin. That alone should be the biggest crime. That should be a commission of inquiry into Petrotrin and jail all of them. But you have to vote for a government that's willing to do those things. Satish, I'm getting an echo, and I don't know if you hear it too. But if you could mute whatever that is. But the truth of the matter is, when you say, Joel, we all of us, we need to meet and keep meeting and talk and keep talking till we find a way. Those meetings that I came to, they were nice, but they were based on people feeling around in the dark. We know where we're trying to go. If you ask every activist, give me the top 10 things that you want done in Trinidad and Tobago, fix in Trinidad and Tobago. Forget just what you're fighting for. Forget just your dog rights, animal rights, or cannabis rights, or fishermen friends in the sea. Forget everything else. If you said the 10 things that you think, if it's done, we fix Trinidad and Tobago. Because I said, if the Progressive Empowerment Party came into office, the first thing we will do is convene something called the Activist Council. And the Activist Council will instruct the government, because the activists are the people who on the ground. And it is the activists who could direct the hand of government to where the problems are. But we've never had a government who wanted to deal with issues like that. Every single government we've ever had has built unnecessary projects to steal money. Gary, we are not changing that by appealing to a compassion and a decency that these people don't have. The only way to change it is to fire them and to replace them. And you, sir, you are somebody that needs to put your hat in the ring and say, okay, this is the culmination of my life's work. Let's do this. Because if we don't, there's going to be nothing to march for in a couple of years.
Yeah, but you have to ask yourself, Philip, who you want to get that sort of personality, like let's say a minister of finance like Ronald Harford. You think Ronald Harford will go to work for the salary that a minister gets? Do you think
Joel,
that Ronald will?
no, Ronald Harford wouldn't, but find somebody who would. And the world is full, and I'm telling you this because I am telling you, if you go back and look at Play Talk for the last month, all you're seeing on this show every night is civic-minded patriots who want a better chance of it. I'm not saying that people want to work for pennies or pittance, but I'm saying to you, if you bring people into office and they fix, if you are the Minister of Public Utilities in this country and you put water in people's taps 24/7 where they could throw away the tank and the pump and they find out you're making $1 million a month, they don't care. Because we're spending $10 billion for this Alcott. So if you could pay them 10% of that, take the money, I tell people I would hire Ramesh. I would hire Ramesh and tell him from 62 to now, any money that you get that was corruptly stolen from this country, take 50%. Because if you could bring back $1 trillion and you take $500 billion, I ain't counting your money. I counting trillion money. That's where we need to be. Find the people who are willing to come and stand with us, all of us. You, Gary, you think I don't know Moda Live could be all up the islands and in South America by now if Gary Aboud wasn't concentrating on Trinidad and Tobago. Gary's a bright fella, he come from bright people. He have access to credit and finance. So he can expand his business. You, Joel, are the biggest, most well-known hairdressing brand in the country, must be in the Caribbean. Come on. All of you giving up. So you think there are other people willing to give up too? I speak to Vernon DeLima. Vernon tell me, Philip, I'm 80 years old. But every ounce of blood I have left is for the people and the children of Trinidad and Tobago. There are a lot of good people, but they're waiting to see that there is a good team setting up, built on integrity.
That's exactly what they waited on. They waited on a good team.
But that's a catch-22. That's a catch-22. You can't tell me you're joining the team when there is a team. You have to be the team. That's what we have to do, all of us. We have to come together. And I'm telling you, there are so many good leaders among us. I will tell you, put your name in a hat and pull 5 names out of that hat. And each of those names, in the order that you pull them, is the prime minister for the first year, the second year, the third year. That's how they did it in England, you know. Gordon Brown and the prime minister, because he had made a deal that you take it for the first half and I'll take it for the second half. Do that in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's do that. And if my name don't pull, I don't care. As long as I am part of a team that fixing this country, give me my corner. Tell me you handle this, and I will fix that to the best of my ability. That's the only way
Philip,
forward.
I think that same way. I think that that's the best thing that you could say. All I have ever wanted to do was to bring back some life to San Fernando West. Because our city is a dead city. It's totally dead, you know.
You can't stay silent, Gary, about it.
Well,
You have to answer the call.
it's all about life, Joel. I mean, San Fernando is a lively place, but I think we need to reinvigorate it. But I don't like the word dead. Um,
Gary, you haven't been to South for long.
well, actually, no.
We died.
Moda Life is invested in a property in South, and we had planned to open for Christmas. So we have great confidence in the future of the economy. Well, boy,
Well,
you see,
let me
Philip.
not disappoint you, but I
No,
will tell you something. San Fernando West is a dead city, and you should visit some of the people. You can get properties now in San Fernando on High Street for next to nothing.
God. But we have a beautiful place, and What Philip says is true because I've seen people with uh, small companies that well, they don't seem to be all that exposed to ideas and information, and they've done very well, and we still struggling. But my wife tells me that I cannot measure success in terms of money. I have to measure success in terms of the people that I have with me, the human capital, the goodwill, and the work that I've done is not material work. So I follow that. I subscribe to that. But I agree with what Philip is saying that we have to make a decision about what road we will go on, and when is the right time to go on those roads. And I'm thinking about
I wonder if Philip means that we must join PEP as and run for certain
Well,
areas of
well,
Trinidad and Tobago.
The Progressive Empowerment Party, first of all, is not mine. And I am saying that we've built it. It is a vehicle. If the one, two, three of us was going to go for doubles tonight, and we go out in the yard and we say, ah, we'll jump in Gary car. We going in Gary car, but we going for doubles. It is the mission that matters, not who car we in. If you want to stop, and that's what confused me in that meeting that you made me come to, because I'm sitting around a table of people who do not have a political vehicle or a political party that are speaking about how to operate a political party, and I'm wondering, on what experience are you speaking? We've built one. Look at here, it's functional. There are departments and people working in this organization, and it is not about ownership. I tell you this, I do not mind. I tell you, I will step down if we could find somebody else that willing to bring this fight. We need to fight for Trinidad and Tobago. Other than that, take your loved ones and get out. Gary was right. The best, just let me just let me say this one thing. All right.
Brought all of these things to the nation, you know. You continue to bring the things to the nation. They're different. I say to you that you have been more of an opposition, and there are those that are on Facebook that are like the opposition. And between you and me, if you can get them all together, I am absolutely certain that you could make 41 people who can actually really go into an election.
Well, we're going forward. We have candidates. We are launching. We were launching on the 21st of March. We have structure. We have an election team and all of that drama. But I'm saying to you, Gary brings other people with name and experience that people look to bring something to the party. And it says that, okay, I will, because right now on the thread for this show, I am seeing people who I have never seen on the show who are here to talk about Mode Alive and the specials and the nice cushions and the curtains and everything that Gary says. And all his supporters are there. Your supporters are there. Your supporters, Joel, are some of the strongest soldiers I have ever seen. And it's because they're people who are accustomed to fighting hard for every inch that you get. I get that.
Well, then
It is
but you see, we don't have the direction. You give us the direction and we'll follow you.
all
Tell
of
us
us. I
what
think
you need us to do.
let us meet and talk outside of this show, and we will bring everybody together and we will have that conversation. It is time for us to have the conversation. But I'm not having the conversation with Gary about. You see, I want you to know something. I know that there's honey, there's vinegar, and I know I like maruga pepper. I know that I hot and I want to burn things. But Gary brings a kumbaya to the conversation too, and he makes us feel to hold hands and light our incense and sing a good song.
light up.
Nazma going, Nazma going. No, but I'm saying, that it needs everything. It can't just be one thing. But I think that the common thread is all of us who love this country, who've been doing this. I will never tire of telling people that the first time I felt like an activist was sitting under a tent on the Foreshore Freeway with Gary Aboud protesting the destruction of the
The
swamp,
mangrove.
the mangrove. And the first time I spoke at a political meeting was in Caripacha. I was invited there by Joel D'Souza. That was the first time I ever spoke in a public meeting. And I know that there are many, many good people. I'm not doing it
And
without
I looked
them.
and I remember that day still, and I say to myself, that man will one day rise so much faster than I would because of the fact that his heart is all a true patriot of Trinidad and Tobago. Gary is a true patriot as well.
Oh God.
So we
Listen,
have true patriots.
and Joel, I'm telling you, we have a lot of them, and we have a lot of good people. And I'm saying
I
this
see that.
publicly. I'm saying this publicly. Trinidadians, when these people put themselves together and put themselves on the line for you, you have a responsibility to make sure that you to vote, go out on election day and vote for your candidate, and make sure that you bring a government to office that could fix these things once and for all. Because if we don't fix it, we are going to lose it.
And you must remember, Philip, whoever goes there next, it's not going to be very easy. We will
Just
never know what we are going to meet. I listened this morning at the Parliament channel where they brought in this Canadian gentleman to discuss Parliament. And do you know that Trinidad and Tobago, we've got so many members of Parliament. And in Canada and in London, they have like about 10 or 12. And here we have like about 50 or 60, you know. And I listened to him and he says that, you know, and I listened to the people ask him questions about Parliament in Canada and how they operate and so, and I can't believe that till today we still, the Speaker of the House is still chosen by the government of the day.
it's 9:43. I want to say that we were supposed to do this for an hour. We here hour nearly 40. So I want to thank both of you because I know that Gary had to
Yes.
put off an engagement, and you too, Joel. Thank you all very much, Nazma. Wherever you are, I hope you're paying attention. We have to bring this conversation back. I can't wait to go and read the comments as Trinidadians had playing on this. But I want to thank both of you for coming. I mean, I can't give you more accolades than I already do. You all know, and everybody knows I have the
Well,
greatest of respect for you both. I want to give both of you an opportunity to make your parting comments, your closing comments, and take as much time as you need. And I guess I will let Joel go first, Gary, and take as much time as you need. Joel, give us your closing comments and make your points.
Well, I would like to echo the same sentiments that the two of you have said. I would like to see governance that is fair. I would like to see proportional governance. I think it's about time that a member of parliament no longer be a minister as well. I think that it's time that things change and that the constitution has some sort of good stance state. I think the Speaker of the House should be chosen by the people. And I just think that we need better governance, and the only way to do that is for us to actually change the constitution. That's my take on it.
Mr. Gary Aboud.
God, you could just call me Gary. I'd like to mirror what Joel just said, but that's the closing part. I would like to say the special congratulations to the Rowley government for appointing the current minister responsible for WASA, who was there a few years ago and did nothing, reported nothing, changed nothing, and allowed the country to go deeper and deeper into a pool of debt. What does the Prime Minister hope to achieve by reappointing the same lawyer who has never even managed a corner parlor, who does not understand the basic economics of business, and to run an institution that is losing $200 million a month at the public expense? What kind of expertise does this man bring to the table? I cannot understand that. I want to say that I'm so completely disappointed in Mr. Rowley and Stuart Young, whose father had a reputation in Scotiabank as being a man of integrity.
Excellent.
for deliberately misleading this country about bringing in a team of Venezuelan oil executives without a single doctor and lying to the country that they came here to talk about medical matters with COVID. What do oil executives have to do with COVID? I'm not against the idea of exporting oil to Venezuela. I support the idea of interfacing with the Venezuelan government and improving our brotherly relations with our sister nation. I have no problem with that, contrary to the American objections and the CIA interference, but I have a problem with lying. Because if you lie, you are a thief. And if you are a thief, you are a murderer. That's how I grew up. So I have a problem with the crookery that is represented by Stuart Young, Dr. Rowley, and the rest of the cabinet. Whether the minister resigned because of that being a problem or something else being a problem, we will never know. They're all tight-lipped and they're all sucking the gravy out of the PNM bandwagon at the treasuries and the public and the poor's expense. So I'm not concerned about why he left. What I'm concerned about is the fact that they lied. And if you lied, that alone is a reason to call an election. Finally, I want to say that I'm so disappointed at the brazen bold-facedness of Brian Manning to come back to this country. He should be ashamed. He should be more ashamed than Basio Pandey to walk on the earth of Trinidad and Tobago for what they have done to this country. That they should walk this earth. I'm embarrassed that Basio Pandey was on this program, and so am I, because I think he's one of the devils that has reigned in this country. He has wreaked even more havoc than Kamala in terms of his double dealing and two-facedness and the whole concept of how they ruled. And so I hope and pray that there's a future for the PEP, for new blood. Even if we can only get 2 seats to get a voice in that parliament, we need to have support for alternatives. We need to support other independents as well. I'm not against the idea of the Kirkwaits and the Louis Leasings, and I hope that they would all join together with Philip and form one unified small group to give these two well-known corrupt dictatorial parties. And if the PEP wins, I think the PDP should make it very clear that we have intensive public consultation on constitutional reform immediately after victory, if there's such a victory. And within 1 year, the amendments to the Constitution should be laid and we should proceed within 12 months, not 12 years, 12 months. Based on that, I would support the PT wholeheartedly. And thank you for having us again.
Agree.
Philip, it's always an honor to see you guys. Joel, it's nice to meet you again, face to face.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Philip,
Thank you
I'm sorry,
both.
I didn't say anything bad. Speaking
Brother,
to
you talk your talk, man. You talk your talk when you come on the show. It's called Plain Talk for a reason. Thank you both. It was an honor and a privilege to have you all here.
Thank you.
And that Trinidad and Tobago is exactly how it is supposed to be and exactly how it's supposed to be said. I stand by everything Gary and Joel just said, and I pledge that Gary Aboud, I will hold you to your word, and you come inside and make sure that we do it, because I agree with you 100%. Joel is correct, and everybody who says we have to reform the Constitution, we have to. And when we talk about reforming the Constitution, we need to make sure that we separate the legislature from the executive. Members of Parliament should only be members of Parliament. Ministers should be hired as CEOs and put to function with plans based on deliverables and metrics and measurables, that they could come back to those same members of Parliament every 6 months and update us and tell us that you're actually getting the job done. Because if you're not, based on the plan that we hired you on, we'll fire you and replace you. So that is an important step. Recall legislation is important. Every government talks about recall legislation. Only Trinidad and Tobago could hire government and can't fire it for 5 years. Only Trinidad and Tobago has an elected dictatorship for 5 years. I have to be begging Keith Rowley to fire Stuart Young. I'm supposed to be able to put 10,000 people on the street tomorrow and march against this government. Stuart Young is what Stuart Young has done to Trinidad and Tobago has damaged almost irretrievably the relationship this country has with the United States of America. As Gary Aboud and David Naked and other people have said, if you're going to be standing for Venezuela, do so publicly. Why the subterfuge? Why the lies? Why all the hidden documents. Where's the actual contract? You say that there were contracts. I want to see those contracts. I need to know that it is actually Trinidad and Tobago that engaged in this fuel sale and not no contract mafia member who put Trinidad and Tobago at risk for a handful of people to make money. Recall legislation is important. Recall means that if I hire you and you are not performing, I could fire you. I don't have to wait 5 years. Referendum is important on critical issues like where our last court of appeal is, on issues like marijuana legalization. All of these things that bigger than the parliament need to be able to go to the public, and you could trigger a referendum as a citizen and force the government to put to a vote these critical issues of national development. And when the people vote, the government is instructed to follow, not to go back to the parliament and debate. All of these things. Campaign finance reform. What campaign finance reform? People say these things and throw these terms at you. What campaign finance reform could be? What we propose, and I've said time and again, put a cap on the spend of every candidate at election time. Be it $50,000, be it $100,000, you have $100,000 to spend. If you spend more than, if you spend $1 more than $100,000, you will be disqualified. That is the ultimate sanction. You will be disqualified from holding office or contesting an election. So that you will make sure that the candidate is responsible for what is spent in his or her name. That's how it's done in the civilized countries. And that's why you're here. I am Bill Clinton, or I'm George W. Bush, or I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message. Because if they can't put that at the end of an ad, somebody is cheating. And then the TV station, the radio station, the press will lose their license for running ads that are not sanctioned by candidates. And it's that serious. Because there are criminals in this country that put dirty money in candidates' hands and political party hands, so that they could pay people to vote. $500 and $1,000. This money don't show up nowhere. I've asked the Financial Intelligence Unit, who keeps track of what is actually spent at an election time? You are disclosing to the returning officer, I spent $150,000. But in your campaign, people watching people, handing people cell phone and jersey and sending maxi to pick them up. Where is that accounted for? Where are the public officers? But you're hiring people to walk around with medical officers and police to check and see if people wearing masks. It's the exact same way you do it at election time. It's election day. Hire 10,000 people to monitor the campaigns of all the candidates. And if you see that going on, take pictures, take video, take statements, and disqualify candidates. And the day you start doing things like that, all of a sudden this place will start to make sense. If members of parliament in the parliament knew that their constituents could march on them tomorrow, just file a petition with the Elections and Boundaries Commission that 15,000 of us believe that this man should be recalled. Triggers a recall election. Immediately, members of parliament will take their responsibility seriously. There are a lot of ways to fix the country. We all have this information. There are a lot of frustrated, civic-minded patriots, former politicians floating free outside there. I'm telling you, come home to the Progressive Empowerment Party. Yes, we're strong. Yes, we talk hard. It is time for us to put aside trying to fit in. We need to stand out. We need to be able to say, this is insane. Gary Aboud upset me tonight by telling me that the Salcott cost this country $10 billion in 20 years. I find that unacceptable in a country that gets thousands of times the water it needs falling from the sky as rain. We cannot continue to be a country that is so easily taken advantage of, and when it happens, we defend our bandits by race. It is a level of foolishness to believe that using National Lotteries Control Board and CPEP and WASA to pay agent provocateurs of the government to defend the mismanagement of government is right. That is misbehavior in public office. That is misuse of public funds. To take public funds and give it to churches and mosques and whoever you're giving it to in exchange for voting, that is misbehavior in public office. If you get money from the government for your church, go and buy hampers and show us that you're buying hampers, you're helping people, and hush. Don't come out and support no parliamentarian that gave you public funds. It's time we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, realize that our voice is for more than Mobilang and Bacchanal. We can fix it. They have a lot of good people. There are plenty much better people than me. Now, I'm the first to say it. I want a better Trinidad and Tobago, and I am damned if I am going to stand by and let these people get it easily. But we could fail if you don't help. Comes down to you. This is not popcorn politics. Because when the credits run on this movie and the lights come on, guess who stuck with the bill? You. If you want a better Trinidad and Tobago, you have to get involved in the process of the rescue of Trinidad and Tobago. We have been showing you night after night after night and day after day after day. We've raised information in the public space as forced the government to confront and deal with issues like abhorrent, irresponsible, soul select, wasteful contracts that the country does not need and is robbing us of having the equity to help the average person maximize their full potential. We need to undo and redo to a better Trinidad and Tobago. We need to reboot this republic. We need to go back to 1962 and restart. We need to rewrite our laws. We need a legislative review. We need to fix things like the Commission of Inquiry and the Director of Public Prosecutions and the courts. We need to make sure that we put a timer on matters before the courts. 3 years for civil matters and 5 years for criminal matters. Vernon de Lima, one of the most acclaimed criminal attorneys in the region, told me even that is too long. But think about people who sitting down in the jail for 40 years waiting on their case to call. We need a better Trinidad and Tobago. We need a better Trinidad and Tobago. We need a better Trinidad and Tobago. And waiting for the PNM and the UNC to come to find the compassion and the decency and the integrity that they never had before is to wait in vain. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, I want to echo Joel D'Souza, I want to echo Gary Aboud, I want to even echo Nazma Mullah on her strong stance, because yes, cannabis legislation, the country needs free and fair cannabis legislation so that we do not criminalize cannabis for usage for the people who use it, and we make sure that we can maximize the potential of this country to grow and sell it for medical and other purposes to earn money. And not just for the chosen few or friends and financiers of the government. There are people who look at me and hear me speak and hope and pray. They light candle in church and rub rosary beads and hope that you don't wake up and support me. It is a perception that the PNM and the UNC has support that keeps them in office. If you pull that perception and you face it this way, those people will collapse. You have the ability in your vote to change the way this country works. And if I could appeal to all of you tonight, start standing up for yourself, your loved ones, your children, your family. Because if we don't, we're going to lose it. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, we have two criminal attorneys joining us to discuss the criminal justice system and why it fails and how it fails. And tomorrow night, we're going to have that discussion. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all of you who stayed. We've been here more than 2 hours, almost 2 hours, and I thank you all for taking the time to spend the time with us and to share this video and to take information from this video and others like it and have conversations with other people. This is not about personalities. This is not about liking me. I'm not looking for friends or girls or helpers. We working together for a better Trinidad and Tobago. And if that's what you want, then stand with us and join with us. Until tomorrow, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.